carrying on with TravelSMG, I'm Stephanie McCracken with Travel Show Marketing Group, joined by my co-host Kelley Wright, one of our travel agent relations managers. The goal of this podcast is to take you beyond the forum and give you an insider look into our events and the travel industry as a whole. Today, Kelley and I are joined by Luke Majewski, the Associate Vice President of Meetings, Intensive, and Corporate Programs for AIC Hotel Group, and Sharon Campbell, the CEO of Bespoke Travel Group and the One Destination Company, specializing in full-service destination weddings and travel. We're going to talk all things Las Vegas Travel Agent Forum and what suppliers and agents can do to prepare and what they can expect once they walk into that trade show floor. So excited that you can both join us today on what we've been calling the "You're Here, Now What" kind of topic. And because Kelley is also an active travel agent outside her TravelSMG work, we figured there was no better group to get us prepared for Las Vegas. And with that, let's just start with one big question from both the supplier and agent perspective. When you walk into a huge event like this, what's your mindset going in?
My mindset going in is always to be prepared in what I am hoping to get out of this event, out of this show. I tailor the sessions and I tailor the trade show with a real strategy and focus of who am I going in here to meet? And what do I want to learn? And what is my end goal to walk away with? So I definitely suggest that agents go prepared. They do their homework and their research beforehand. Select a strategy that they want to come out on the other side with answers to and information for, because it is such, a large event, both with the educational sessions and the trade show and the networking opportunities. I think if you were to go in there without a focused strategy, it would be very easy for agents to become completely overwhelmed by, the show and the size and just one thing after another. So I definitely recommend that they focus on what they want to get out of it before they go in, by doing homework, by doing research on the sessions and on the suppliers.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with Sharon. I mean, coming with a plan will make life easier, will lower the overwhelming feeling of so much going on from trade shows, so many suppliers, destinations, and obviously co-travel agents. One other thing is definitely listen more than you speak, I think, because you're going to meet a lot of great suppliers and agents, and you're going to learn from both. So like Sharon said, if you don't come in with a plan, it's going to be extremely overwhelming because there's so much information overload that you're going to lose out on what you really are trying to get out of it.
Yeah, and we talked in one of our previous podcasts, Kelley and I, about event goals. So I know that's something that we've discussed, and everybody, we'll put a link to that previous podcast in our show notes. But Kelley, talking about the event goals, they both touched on them. And Sharon kind of talked about that educational sessions and everything. How do you decide which sessions are worth your time, Kelley?
So for me, it is ahead of time, reading everything, trying to figure out what I really need to focus on at this point in my career and what I'm looking at, right? So if I'm looking at the different options, I'm going to compare them and see which one is better for my business. So one of the ones that I kind of go towards sometimes are things that are either with my niche, or if it's something like, I really like the BDM ones, right? Like how to work with your BDM. I think that that's very important for many reasons, because all BDMs kind of work with their agents differently. And it's nice to have that panel and hear how those BDMs that are talking would really help you in your business as an agent. And I think coming in, like they were saying, like they both said too, without being overwhelmed, by walking in and having a plan, that's the way to make that happen. And that includes figuring out those sessions ahead of time and making sure that you're booking them on the app and everything is so important there.
And kind of pivoting back towards the trade show floor, let's kind of dive into the trade show floor, the booths, and how to work those conversations. So what is a kind of conversation that a travel agent should kind of strike up when walking and exploring the booths and meeting with suppliers face to face?
I think for sure you need to, again, have a strategy. You have to be strategic in who it is that you want to meet and what you want to achieve out of this event. You're never going to be able to hit up every single booth and have a meaningful, solid content conversation. My strategy is this: if it's a new brand or it's a brand that I'm not really too familiar with, I go with 3 main questions. And my last question out of the 3 is always, think of to the BDM or to the supplier who's being represented. Think of your most successful agent or agency that sells your brand now, and help me just take some of those skill sets, some of those practices that they do, help me to become a number 1 agent or a number 1 agency for your brand. How can you help me strategically be better than I am today? That's usually, I go with my 3 questions, but that would be the most important of the 3.
That's a great one. I really love that.
Yeah. And I mean, Kelley said it too. I think the biggest one is when you come up to the trade show booths, whatever the product destination or hotelier may be, your DMC, tell us about your business. As much as I think you're going to retain the facts I give you about our hotels, if you don't tell me about your business, I can't figure out, or our BDMs can't figure out, if we're going to fit into your business model. And maybe it's not a fit, and that's okay. It's okay to not feel like they're going to be a fit for your business model because you don't sell that destination or that type of group or weddings or whatever it may be. Fit them into your business model. Don't force it, because then it's just not going to work out for you.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Sorry, I just want to add to what Luke said. If it's not a fit, at the very, worst case scenario, you at least have a contact, you have their email, and you have their telephone number. So it might not be a fit today, but in 8 or 10 months time from now, you don't know what type of inquiries or which way your business is going to mold or shape to. So at least establish, some sort of contact relationship with that supplier. Sorry, Kelley, go ahead.
No, actually, that kind of almost was exactly where I was going. I think that's perfect, because that's the big thing is that you don't know who you're going to need in another few months. You could have a client call you next week and want something, and then you could look back through and be like, oh, I spoke to this person. Maybe they can help me, and you can reach out. And I think the other thing too is exactly what you were saying before about having a strategic plan. You have that list of suppliers ahead of time. So you want to go through it and figure out who's going to work best for you and who you want to make sure you meet. And that's what I keep on saying about this topic is circle those people or put a check mark, whatever it is. And then when you're going down to figure out where they are, that map's all there also in the book that you'll receive. And you can go ahead and figure that out. And if there's somebody around them while you're waiting, then you can talk to them too. And also to take that and then use that when you get back, right? You might not be able to have a long conversation on the actual trade show floor, but you can talk to them for a little bit and then follow up. Don't wait for the supplier to follow up with you. You should also follow up with the supplier. It's really important. And I think that that is one of the key points too, is the suppliers are going to send you out an email. Absolutely. They want to follow up with you. But if you send them an email just to them, that is going to show them that you really want to work with them and set up those next appointments.
To Kelley's point, connecting beforehand is fine too. If there's, 1 or 2 that you really, really need to meet and you just don't know what's going to happen at the trade show, reach out to them ahead of time and say, hey, because of my business model, this is what I'd like to learn from you if you have time during the trade show or outside the trade show. I assure you they'll appreciate that versus trying to fit it into a 20-second meeting.
Yeah, I agree with that. So one of my big things was, started as an agent in 2017. First event that I ever went to was Travel Show Marketing Group's Miami group. But I walked in there with no clue, like totally clueless, very scared, didn't know what was going on. Everybody was amazing, but also that what you're saying there as far as meeting with someone beforehand and things like that, I think that that's really great advice, because when I got there and I started looking at the floor and who was there for its suppliers, it was just like shut down. And then I didn't get that much out of it as I could have if I now fast forward 10 years or 9 years later and give that person advice that I was that day to do all of those things, do the research, go in with an open mind and make sure that you have those goals set. I feel like would be much more prepared and it would probably be a different experience.
Yeah. And one thing that we've kind of hit hit on is, the importance of following up, that once the show ends, it's not over. It's about the follow up. So starting on the kind of the supplier side, what does effective follow up look like after such a large event?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, identifying the supplier and how they work with travel agents. My company may have a different structure where our BDMs, based on where you're located, is who you're going to be working with. Other vendors and other hoteliers may be different, and you may have a national one. So really just finding out how they operate, how to connect with their BDM, and then what their, kind of training programs are for travel advisors, educational programs. That's kind of the biggest thing to get more information. Just make sure you're connected with the right contact, because not all the time at a trade show like this, you're going to meet your particular BDM. So that's my advice from that side.
Well, what about you, Sharon and Kelley?
They'll tell you who you can meet up with, right? Like usually you'll tell the person like, oh, let me hook you up with your BDM or whatever it is in that case.
Yeah. And a lot of them will take notes, or we'll have QR codes you can scan. That way you're connected digitally to them. But, we definitely want to connect them to the correct person so they're not just all over the place.
And at the end of the event, how do you define whether it was a success for you? And obviously that pairs back to your goals and your strategy. But what's one kind of green flag you'll see exiting the event that went smoothly? And what's kind of one red flag mistake that you'll kind of pivot and learn from and try to fix for the next time?
Yeah, for me, it's always going to be related back to my strategy and my goals. A red flag would be if I walk away from, these 3 days and I haven't met all of my goals. What was I doing? How did I lose my strategy? What was it that overtook my time or rediverted me to somewhere else? And that can be very easily done, because you're in the moment, everybody's saying, oh, I'm heading to here. Where are you going? Oh, do this with us, do that with us. It's very easy to lose sight of what you were there for, because there is a lot of what's going on. So that would be a red flag for me. But honestly, after so many events now and so many years in the industry, I've become very disciplined that any time spent out of my office has to give me an ROI when I get back to my office. So I don't allow that to happen. I'm very strict with my time and my timings and what my goals are going into an event. There's lots of different choices of events to go to. And I think it's super important that you do stay disciplined and that you get out of it exactly what you went there for.
Yeah, and I mean, Sharon hit it on the head, and I think we've said it at least a dozen times now. If you're not planning ahead, you're going to be way overwhelmed. But I think, Travel Show Marketing Group does a great job. These are experts, not only in their field or the topics. These seminars are not run by random strangers. These are vetted professionals who, they weren't born this way. They didn't start out being this successful, like a Sharon in the weddings world or in the groups world or whatever it may be. So you're going there to learn something and then putting it into action. If you go there without a plan, you're going to leave without anything, and then you're going to be overwhelmed. I don't know what the correct number is for everyone, right? Everyone's successful with 3, 4, 5, 6 different topics or agendas, but maybe it's 3. Maybe it's AI, maybe it's social media, maybe it's groups. I assure you, you're not going to do it all in the first 30 days. Mm-hmm. So really narrowing it down to a few, I think, is a great starting point.
Well, I think that's key right there too. Like, so when you get back and you have those goals set, now what are the goals for when you get back too, right? So what are you going to do to make sure that happens? So I started to put reminders on my phone to just give me hey, did you do this yet? Did you follow up with these people? Did you do X, Y, and Z? Because then that way I'm holding myself accountable for that stuff too. Because I've said it other times too, but I'm a huge procrastinator as far as that thing, right? I'm like that last minute packer. I'm that last minute for everything like that. So as far as those things, when you get back, in order to get the most out of everything that you just did, you need to make sure that you're following up and doing all those things when you return too.
Yeah. So obviously we're going to keep hounding on the strategy and the planning. And we've kind of talked about that pretty much in every type of event discussion we've had. But something that kind of can throw certain people for a loop, depending on your personality, is is those networking opportunities outside the schedule of the normal events. Like when you're trying to talk to somebody outside the convention center, how does an agent and a supplier, if they're not comfortable in the social setting, how do they kind of walk up to somebody they've recognized? How do they introduce themselves? How do they start that conversation?
I think this part is probably the most important, because too many people will sit in the session environment, at the table, at their desk, and not speak to someone either side of them. That's alien to me personally. I'm very much, I'll talk to anyone anywhere. However, the worst thing that can happen to you is everybody's wearing a name badge, and you can turn to your left or you can turn to your right and you can just introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Sharon from Bespoke Travel Group. Who are you? Where have you come from? I mean, the worst thing that can happen is the person to your left or right will ignore you and say nothing, in which case you still not lost anything. Turn to the person in front or behind you and just start that conversation. I do see this a lot when I go to events, or, they walk in and they sit down at a seat that's got nobody next to them because they're trying to avoid that. If you're a business owner or you're looking to be successful in business, that doesn't happen by not talking to other people. You have to push through those uncomfortable 30-second moments. And when you do, I promise you that most travel advisors that I have ever met or spoken with, they will tell you that some of the best things they learned were from other agents or from other advisors who were just sat next to them, or they went to lunch, or they sat at the dinner table with them. Those are the moments that can become the most valuable to you. And not only that, not only for education and learning how other people do things, but for friendship as well. I have so many friends in the travel industry now. I never see them as competitors. I never think about, I'm not going to share what I do with them because then they're just going to copy me. That's false economy, a way of thinking. It's always about sharing is caring, and I don't see anybody as competition. I just see them as, a friend who I don't know yet. Simple as that.
Yeah, and Sharon's right. I think the biggest thing is, we all understand how long we're going for, a couple days. It's an investment for one. So we've learned over the years, we don't want to be in our rooms. We don't want to be stepping away to work. We knew we were going here. We have a plan in place for some coverage for our BDMs to answer emails. Someone will help them, because we believe those meaningful connections happen outside the ballroom as well. So we want to be available. We want to have those conversations. Like Sharon said, talk to strangers. That's what these name badges are for. You're not going to make friends with everyone, and that's okay, but you're going to meet a handful of people who are going to help you down the line. Like Sharon said, we refer business to one another. Sometimes it may not be right for our hotel, so it may be right for another destination, and we'll certainly refer them. And travel agents do the same. When you're out and about, there's not many times you're going to meet someone from Italy or the Philippines or globally. Like, let them know you appreciate the fact that they flew 12 hours. I'm spoiled. I'm flying 2 hours. But some of these suppliers flew from all over the world. So, I know everyone's business matters and you're going to be busy, but, try to stay out of your room as much as possible and find those connections, or grab a cup of coffee with someone, or grab a snack with someone from one of these global destinations.
Yeah, I think that's perfect too. And I think that for me, I'm not the quietest person in the world, but I also get nervous in some of those situations, especially at the beginning when I first started. And I would think that I was like, getting in the way of a supplier if I went up to them and introduced myself and asked them a question, but that's not the case at all. That's what you guys want. Like, you want people to come up to you and talk to you and ask you about like how you could help them with their business, right? Like, that's what it's all about in my mind.
I would also say on the flip side of that, as coming from the travel advisor side, don't hijack a supplier's time at the trade show by talking to them about a specific incident or something that you specifically want to know, and take their time for 20 minutes, because that there's nothing worse than that. Ask them if you can schedule a time. Hey, I have a certain situation I need to talk to someone about. How can I follow up after the show? Please, whatever you do not hijack a BDM's time or a supplier's time at the trade show booth. I get really frustrated myself, even today, when I'm, there's a line of people waiting to talk to the BDM or at least just swap cards, if nothing else. And somebody is literally hijacking their time about, a past problem that they had. And so don't do that. That's a definite don't do.
Yes, I 100% agree as a former BDM. Customer service is not the time. Obviously, we have great people to help you and we'll listen after the fact, but trade shows are not the time to tell us about the one client or the one issue after the fact or, after the event. Obviously, we'll be able to help you.
And so we've talked about a lot about the networking, the education, the trade show floor, and everything like that. But just to kind of we could talk about this show and all how to handle live events forever. I feel like it's a never-ending topic. We want to keep everybody moving, keep people listening. So just before we wrap this up, can you just kind of give me, and it can be definitely a repetition of what you've already said, but just some advice for like a first timer or a veteran, just supplier or an agent, just some very quick advice on what you wish they would make sure they do before, during, or after the event itself. We'll start with you, Sharon.
Okay. So, my number one thing is go in with a strategy. I always go with 3 goals or 3 strategies, whether it's to meet a new supplier or to re-engage with an existing supplier. And for this particular show, I am actually going to re-engage with someone who I was selling a lot of their product, and then they've gone through a lot of changes. They've gone through acquisition after acquisition. I actually don't know who my local BDMs are anymore. And I still like the product, but because I lost contact, I want to make sure that, that I reestablish who my BDM is again. So I think three main goals is what my strategy is. And I don't go in with 10 or 12 because I know I'm probably not going to achieve that. I also have an established book of business. So I'm always looking to introduce one new supplier, somebody that I don't currently sell today. So I want to introduce my suppliers slowly and steadily. I want to make sure I have that relationship with them and I test that product out before I go in full hog. And then the third thing is, I'm 36 years in the industry. If you go into any event such as Travel Agent Forum and you think there's nothing for you to learn, you are so wrong. Honestly, you're so wrong. Every single time I go in, like the whole AI thing right now, social media, I don't really have a great desire to be putting a ton of time into this. So my strategy is, okay, how can I learn enough about this stuff to be dangerous, I guess? And then how do I put that and make that work for my business? I already know it's not going to be me. I'm not the individual who is going to be implementing these things. But I need to understand if I'm going to hire somebody else to do this for me or a company who's going to do it for me, I still need to know enough basic foundation level that if I'm going to pay somebody else to do this part of my business, I have at least a minimal understanding of what it is that I'm trying to achieve. So those would be my things. And then, of course, the follow-up. Everything comes from the follow-up because you're not going to walk away from this with all of the answers. But your time has been absolutely useless if you do not do the follow-up. And I personally prepare I have my emails for follow-up. I have them prepped and ready until I've met that person. And then I know what my exact follow-up questions are going to be. And I do it before I actually leave the show. Because once I get back to my office and everyday work life starts again, I'm going to forget that. I'm going to forget those key points. And I'll probably never end up doing the follow-up. So I always make sure I do that, prep it, and have it ready before I leave the show.
Yeah, and I mean, I've known Sharon for quite a while. I've sat in on a lot of her seminars as well. So I assure you to the listeners, none of these answers are pre-planned. But I also have written down exactly what Sharon just said. You know, getting 3 things out of it is very important. You know, maybe one new destination to engage with, one thing you want to be better at that you're currently doing, and then one thing you want to learn about. I think those are 3 very solid goals that'll help you kind of develop 3 different segments of your business. So, but if you're hearing it from, 3 or 4 different people on a podcast, it's very unplanned, but it is the correct approach to have a very successful event and investment in traveling down to a big trade show and seminar like this.
Yeah. And Luke, from the BDM perspective, if it's a new company it's their first time exhibiting at Travel Agent Forum, what are those key aspects that they should be walking in with and following up on after the fact?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, and we've learned it time and time again, is taking small notes about each conversation, each person. Some people give you business cards. We've gotten into the habit of using QR codes where they'll submit their information to us, but really following up with them about what their business is and how you're going to fit into it, especially if they don't know you or your new supplier. Really sharing those educational notes after the fact. It's hard to really convince someone or sell someone in 30 seconds because they're going to move on to the next table and they're going to completely forget about you. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. Sometimes we talk about our hotels, sometimes we don't. And at the end of the day, that's okay because you want to learn about their business model first, and then you'll connect after the fact.
Just to add to what Luke was saying, I've just been to a farm in Scotland where I learned for I'm old school. So when I go to like the round table sessions, for example, because I'm probably going to go to 20 round tables, I'm never going to remember everything that each person said. So I go with my notebook and I'm old school. I take handwritten notes. I put their business card on there and I highlight the points that are important to me right there and then. But I just came off a farm where a lot of agents are using an app called Granola as in like the breakfast. And this is an app that records one-on-one sessions, and it kind of like AI summarizes all of those notes, and it puts them in a written text format. So you can then go back to your office and again, just highlight those things. Because no matter how good a note taker you are, you're always going to miss something. So definitely make sure, especially when you get the opportunity, like in the roundtable sessions, to make the notes from each BDM or each supplier. And I attach the business card on that page, and I have a full page of notes from each one.
Yeah, there's something like that you can get on Amazon too. I was talking about at one point with somebody, and when we were in Fairbanks, a couple people had them, but it's literally for that. It's like a spot for the business card. They can just slide it in and then write the notes under it. And then there's like some check mark box too that you can put like, yes, you want to follow up with them or what you want to do and stuff like that too, which I thought was pretty cool.
Sharon, Granola's brilliant because I do what you do. I use a notepad.
So there might be a couple others too, because people in Fairbanks had that app too. I don't know if it was the Granola one or another one, but they were showing it to me and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I need to start using that.
No, that's a great tip for suppliers too, because we usually hand off our notes to their BDMs, and sometimes I forget what I scribbled. So this is brilliance.
Yeah. It's good for that follow-up after too, because if you have that there and you're having that one-on-one conversation with someone and you're recording it, then afterwards you have something else to put in there, right? Like if they were saying, oh, I'm going back and it's my son's birthday, then you can throw that in the email. So it makes it, you actually do care about that conversation too. I think for me, for this all stuff, like from a new person, if you're coming in as a new agent to an event like this, everything that these guys said is perfect. Make sure you have those goals. Make sure everything that we've talked about today. But I think also meet somebody new that's an agent, right? If you go there and you don't know anybody at all, just like Sharon said before, if you start talking to people, people are going to talk to you. I feel really that this industry, everybody is so welcoming and so nice and always willing to talk to you. And a lot of people will be like, oh, come with me. This is where I'm going next. Why don't we go do this together? Or they'll introduce you to people that they know. It is so important to do that part of it. Yeah, you might need some downtime, but make sure you make that connection with other agents. And the other thing is if you know someone that's there or a couple people, try to meet new people still. Don't just stick with those 2 people you know. Don't just sit in that little clique or whatever it is. Outbranch. Go meet other people. Go sit at a different table than them. That's where you're going to really meet people that will help you.
I love that. And before we wrap it up, I know Sharon and Luke, both of you guys are going to be part of the sessions at Las Vegas Travel Agent Forum, and we're looking very much forward to hearing you guys speak. And we'll put details about when you guys are speaking and your topics in our show notes. Any last minute discussions or topics you want to touch on about Las Vegas Travel Agent Forum before we close up?
I would just like to say for new or seasoned agents, I think it's pretty established now that, you can't be a jack of all trades, and a master of none. You definitely do not and cannot possibly humanly learn the entire world, every supplier, every hotel, every destination. I think if you're not already niching down or thinking about niching down, you need to, because that is going to help you go fishing in a much smaller pond and being successful. I am going to share my success story at the conference. However, I just think it's in today's world of travel, if you think you can be all things to all men, it's definitely not humanly possible. Even if you're just into family travel, try and niche that down either to a region of the world or a couple of brands that you successfully work with. Because if you come in thinking, I got to learn everything from, North Africa, South Africa, to Europe, to South America, to North America, it's inhumanly possible. You just can't do it. So I think taking that advice of trying to niche down and be the best that you can be in a much smaller pool of agents, you're going to pretty much guarantee your own success.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with Sharon. I think narrowing down your business model, I'll be in the seminar talking about groups. As much as I appreciate travel advisors coming to me saying I want to sell groups, that's a very blanket statement. Make sure you have some preparedness or some education on the topic. What types of groups? How are you going to do it? Have some kind of plan. As much as all the suppliers want to help you sell that, if you don't do enough research or have some kind of plan, we're not going to be able to guide you many places. So 100% agree with Sharon, narrowing it down your focus a little bit more. And then, showing the supplier you've done your research. You do have a somewhat of an understanding what you want to do. Where can you help me as my supplier? That's going to go a long way versus walking up to myself or some of our team members saying, I want to sell groups, which is a little too blanket.
All right, Kelley, any last thoughts from you?
Yep. Be present. That is my number one, right? Be present, be there, put that phone away. Do not play games on your phone during someone's speech or whatever it is during their session. That is rude, and it will help you to make sure that you learn something. If you're present, get that phone away. The other thing is that you can sleep when you get home. I'm not telling you to go stay out all night in Vegas. I'm telling you to go to the events and to take advantage of everything and to make sure that you're getting everything out of it that you really can. And I think that by being present, by doing everything else that we've talked about here, that's going to happen, and not hiding away in your room and making sure that you go to everything.
All right. Thank you guys so much, Luke and Sharon, for joining Kelley and I today on Carrying On with TravelSMG. Looking forward to connecting with you both in Las Vegas, and we'll have so much more information about the show in the show notes. There's a lot to cover, and we want to see everybody at the Las Vegas Travel Agent Forum this year. So thanks, guys, again.
See you guys soon.
See you there.